Okay.
Oh, got
And
it.
and
Oh, you all look so spiffy of your uniforms. Wow, fancy.
well, this is our maybe our last art chat of the spring semester 2003. We have home run ballerina, maybe better known as Audrey Leary, or the baker in Connecticut, and all of the or mom, all of the above.
Yes, all the
Fashion,
above.
yeah, yeah. Come on in, and now we have our resource officer who is a regular for our art chat. So, Audrey, thank you very much for. I know you're very busy. Thanks for taking the time. Um, and we have our fair share of questions, and we'd love to hear how you started your thing and just let the conversation go. We did quite a bit of reading about you.
Oh
Um,
man,
yeah,
can't
just
imagine what that was. Awesome. Well, yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm a pretty open book, and I'm not sure why anyone would want to follow my path, but if you have any questions about it, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, I think I'm gonna start off with the burning question that I think everyone has is how do you find time to balance everything? Because I feel like you do so much. Plus your mom, like it's a lot.
I think that once you become a parent, at least in my experience, once I became a parent, I got much better at maximizing my time because you realize you have so little. So I do a lot at night after my kids are asleep. I also find that I just have a lot more energy for the stuff that I want to do. So so I'll stay up like this past week. I think I can say this. I had a photographer shoot my house yesterday. I'm going to be featured on a blog for a home tour. So I've been trying to get my house clean, which you guys don't have children, so you don't know this. Robbie, maybe you know how hard it
yes.
is to have a clean house with a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old boy running around. So when I'm trying to get the house like just tidied up, instead I found myself at like 10 p.m. starting to like paint my laundry room or like painting the trim in my kitchen because I have all of the energy in the world to do stuff like that I want to do and much less to do things like have my house. So, um, yeah, I think that's it. I just am really good at maximizing creative time um, because I love doing that stuff, and I don't sleep as much as I should, probably.
Okay, so I have a question. Whenever we were like researching kind of like what you have done and what you're doing, I noticed that you went to a French culinary institute in New York.
Yeah.
Okay, that is so freaking cool, and like I am so inspired by you going to culinary school and then opening up your own bakery, and you have a bistro. That's just so awesome. So could you maybe talk about that experience for a little while?
Sure. So oh man. So yeah, back when I was in high school, I graduated and I was living in Southern Illinois at the time. I don't know, you probably don't need all this background, but basically I moved to Chicago to go to art school. And I went to art school for a year before I dropped out of school because it wasn't what I thought it would be. And I think frankly, I probably just wasn't really ready for school. Um, so I ended up kind of kicking around Chicago for a while and starting to cook for friends. And I started selling tickets to dinner parties because I didn't really have any money. So I couldn't afford to just like make dinner for everybody, but I really liked making dinner for everybody, like fancy dinner. So basically, I would sell tickets to these dinner parties, and that would give me enough money to like pay for all the food and also maybe like buy fancy wines. And after doing this for a few months, some of my friends and the people that were coming to the dinner parties were saying, like, you're actually really good at this. You should go to culinary school. And I started to think about it more seriously. And I ended up moving to New York to specifically to go to the French Culinary Institute. At that time, I was working at a place that made TV commercials. I was their office manager, and they happened to, I was in Chicago working for them. They also had an office in New York. So I was able to transfer my job and culinary school at the same time. So it all kind of worked out great. And I will say, culinary school was like the best time of my life. I absolutely loved every second of it. It was so gratifying. And if I don't know, like I know you guys aren't necessarily wanting to be artists, maybe. For me, I've always like I went to art school because I thought I would be a graphic designer. I really loved drawing and painting and just doing creative things. And when I got to school and found that like everything is on the computer and you're sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day, I was so bummed out, and I just don't really have the attention span for that. For me, food is such a way to make art with your hands. And it's also, I'm kind of a people person. And so just having people tell you like how much they love your food, and it was the best to me. I will also say culinary school is very expensive and not the most practical choice, because as someone who owns a restaurant, it's not like the greatest way to make money. It's a really hard job. I love it, but yeah, I don't know. If there are any other questions about it, I'm happy to answer. I can't say I recommend it just because it's such a huge cost. I think for a year of culinary school, it was about $25,000, and that was 15 years ago. So I can only imagine what it is now. I feel like I learned a ton and I do use it every day, but you could learn the same stuff if you just went to a city and started working in a restaurant. A lot of restaurants will hire young people who just want to learn, and you can learn everything there and get paid to learn instead of paying to learn it. And that might make more sense.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
Audrey, would you, and I don't know if I told them this, but I told you this, that the first post that I encountered of yours that struck me and had me seek to get you here was I think it's your bedroom. It was the blue room with the stripe.
Oh, yeah, I was just in there. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
Would you take us to these, what seem to be me now as like these iconic Audrey places? This wall, the ant wall, and any other rooms that you've actually and just walk us through the process. Are they all painted? I mean, I know I saw some stencil for the ant, but just talk us through it, please.
Yeah, so this one I did, I don't know, 6 months ago or something. This room when we bought the house was like, God, if I can even remember, I've painted this room so many times now. I think it was like blood red with like pukey green ceiling and trim. It was really atrocious and took a lot of coats to get over. So I knew that I wanted to be, a cooler color. But basically, I actually for this one reached out to a paint company. I'm always in our house, we don't really have a budget for decorating. So I'm always kind of trying to be crafty and either use what we have, or now that I have something of a following on Instagram, I'll just reach out to companies and ask them to give me stuff for free. And it's kind of amazing how often that works. So basically, I reached out to Backdrop, which is a paint company, and asked if they would be willing to provide free paint so that I could do something. And I was kind of open-ended about exactly what I was going to do in here. And I wasn't really sure until I got the base colors down. I knew I wanted to do something with stripes, but basically the thinking honestly was I am too impulsive and impatient to like carefully measure out straight stripes. And that sounds like a lot of work. Instead, I can just kind of like do it with paint. I mean, if you mess it up, you can just fix it. Like to me, there's just absolutely no reason not to try something out on your walls, or yeah, you can always, it's just paint. It's so easily fixable. I mean, to me, it's the same as like writing on a chalkboard and chalk. So I just kind of made, basically I got a paint roller, like a standard paint roller, put scotch tape between, so if it's like a line, one here and one here, so that there were 3 lines still popping up and then 2 lines in between them down to make 3 stripes, and then just kind of freehanded it and went back in with the base color to kind of clean up spots that were a little sloppy. So that's how I did this one. There's also, I mean, I've had a bunch that I've done over and over again. So I've painted over some. Oh, like in here, our bathroom, which is probably a weird thing to show you. I made, oops, low battery. Oop, can you guys with me? All right, hopefully my battery will survive this whole time. I'm horrible about losing battery. Basically, I made a stamp. And with this one, I did finally buy a laser level so I could just sit it on the floor and make sure I was making a straight line up and down. And then just use leftover paint color that I had to kind of go up the walls. And I didn't even go all the way up to the ceiling. And I just figured like there's no rule that says you have to. I don't know. I just left it that way. I think sometimes I kind of like leaving something that makes it clear that it's handmade and not a wallpaper because I don't know. I like for people to know that I made it. Same with here's the ant wall you were talking about. So yeah, this is actually, I have a dress with this pattern and I'd always loved it and thought that it would make a great wallpaper. So I decided to just do it. And it was very time consuming. And in fact, there's still some ants that don't have legs, but here's the dress. And I just made a stencil kind of, I think I ended up finding an old picture of the dress online and blowing it up. I tried a couple different sizes to try to figure out the scale. And then I made a card. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I'm talking too much.
No. You didn't paint the dress. The dress, that's the pattern in the fabric.
That's the pattern in the fabric. That's the pattern in the fabric. Yeah, it's a dress that I bought, I don't know, 15 years ago or something. It's a designer that doesn't exist anymore, this British designer. Not an expensive designer, not fancy. I think they sold it at Anthropology. And I just really liked, so yeah. So there's that. Let's see, I've got, if I go downstairs, trying to remember other ones I have. Oh, so here's the very first one I did. I just did a story on this, but this one is super quick and easy. And yeah, basically, again, I mean, I think often with the painting that I do on the walls and stuff, I guess the guest room would be the exception to this that I kind of just did off the top of my head. But a lot of times my inspiration really comes from I really like something and I can't find it or I can't afford it. And so I figure out a way to do it myself. And I think for a long time, I kind of beat myself up about not feeling creative because I don't come up with things myself entirely. But I've realized like if you just do your version of it, it's going to be different anyway, and it'll kind of become uniquely yours. So I've kind of embraced that a little bit more. But basically, yeah, this is the same idea as the ants. I just made a really simple stencil and then just kind of eyeballed where to put it on the walls to look right. And I don't think if I have any more, I have one more. It's in another tiny bathroom. But basically, this one's also just free-handed. And it is in here. Let's see, the dark little bathroom. But basically, I wanted a floral wallpaper. So I just kind of stayed up really late one night and painted it. It can be good to start with like a small room. This is a tiny bathroom, so it only took a couple hours to do the whole thing. I think being impulsive and not being worried about things being perfect helps.
Do your kids ever help you, like in the past, have they helped you like paint the walls?
Not help would be the right word. Yeah, sort of. They both, my older son especially, really, really wants to help and is now getting to the point where he actually can kind of help. He's 6. My younger son is like, I love him very much, but he's like a terrorist and has no interest in being helpful. So I don't let him near. That's why I end up waiting until they're asleep most of the time. He would not be helpful.
So a little about your like videos on what you wear every day.
Uh-huh.
Do you like wake up? Because I know like if I had to wake up and pick an outfit every day, because I get to wear a uniform, so I don't have to think about what I'm gonna wear. But does that cause you stress, or do you just like wake up and just throw on whatever you want?
Yeah, it doesn't really cause me stress. In a weird way, I think that making reels makes it kind of easier sometimes because I don't want to wear something too similar. I don't know, for the sake of variety. So I'll usually start with like thinking today is very cold. I knew I was going to be at the bakery today, so I want to be comfortable. I'm not going to wear anything too fancy. So I want to wear really warm pants. So I think of a pair of nice warm, these are like cashmere pants, like sweater pants, and then just kind of build something from there. I think it honestly makes it a little easier for me. I will also say, in full disclosure, I almost never wake up and put on like what I end up wearing for the day because I wake up with little kids. I usually wake up, throw on sweatpants and a t-shirt, make coffee, drive them to school, and then come home and I'm like, okay, what am I actually going to wear today? So that also makes it a lot easier because I think at like 7 in the morning, I would just be like, I don't know, like just want to wear a onesie or something. So yeah, I mean, this is like maybe, I don't know, lame or weird, but a lot of nights if I'm having trouble falling asleep, I'll lay there and think like, okay, well, what am I going to wear tomorrow? And it makes me fall asleep. And sometimes I am able to think of what I'm going to wear. So, yeah.
In one of the articles that we read, it talked about when you purchased the bakery.
Mm-hmm.
The bakery, that you were surprised with the clientele that you had inherited.
Interesting. Uh-huh.
And that it was that you wanted to go more natural and stuff. So it made it sound like the purchase was on a whim without research. Was that true?
I wouldn't say it was on a whim, but I would definitely say that we had no idea what we were getting into. My husband and I got married the day after I turned 26. We waited a year. I was running a bakery in Brooklyn, and we decided that we wanted to try to open up a bakery somewhere. And our initial thought was to do it in like a smaller city. We couldn't afford to do it in New York, so maybe we'd do it in like Burlington, Vermont, or like Philadelphia. I think of myself as a city person now as I sit in a town of like 2,000 people in the middle of nowhere. So we looked for a while and realized like truthfully, we couldn't really afford to do it in a smaller city either. And so we ended up finding this bakery kind of in the middle of nowhere that we could afford. And I think I just kind of thought, like, well, I've run bakeries before. I'm a very optimistic, kind of glass half full person. Like, I've had to order supplies before. I know how to bake whatever anyone could ever want. So, like, what else do we really need to know? And could not conceptualize like moving to this other part of the country, how different it would be than New York, and where we would have to put our money and what we would have to prioritize to actually be able to make it successful. It was a crazy learning curve. Um, it was a wild experience. I mean, we had like an inflatable mattress and we would sleep on the floor of the bakery and then like wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to hide the mattress in the basement so that our employees didn't know that we were sleeping there because we were just working until like 2 or 3 in the morning to try to get things where we wanted them to be. Because when we took over the bakery, the old owners were lovely, but they were older and they had basically just been buying pre-made baked goods and just baking them off and selling them, which can be profitable. But it wasn't something I was interested in doing. But it turns out making everything from scratch is a lot harder than just buying it and selling it. And it took a ton of work. And I was the only baker, so I was doing everything on my own. It was pretty crazy. Sorry, I'm so long-winded. Basically, it was not on a whim, but we had no idea what we were getting into.
Do you have a favorite thing you like to bake?
I really love baking French macaron, and or alternately like sourdough bread, which are two very different things. But macaron, I think to me, kind of epitomize what I love about baking. You have so much control over how they look, which is why I decided to go to pastry school instead of culinary school. Like I still wanted to have kind of that artistry of making things beautiful, and you get a lot more chances to do that as a pastry chef. So macaron, I love. They're like perfect little beautiful things. And then sourdough, I love because it's just kind of magic, and I love bread.
I also love baking macarons. I make them at home like for fun sometimes. Shabby, what's like your favorite flavor to like make? Because I've only made a couple.
I really like trying to like make ones that I haven't seen other places. So I like to think about like what my favorite desserts are and then figure out how to make them into a macaron. So I think my favorite one that I make is a root beer float. So I have like a root beer extract that I'll do for the shells, and then I make like a custard, like a ice cream base for the center, and it really tastes just like a root beer float, and it's so good.
How did you like get into like fashion and stuff? Like when did that start?
I have always loved like personal style and getting dressed. I've mentioned many times I have two kids, and my 3-year-old now is like clearly going to, I don't know if he'll be an artist or what, but he's super into what he's wearing. And my parents always tell me stories about me being in like first grade and insisting on wearing like the same outfit every day because I thought that it was like the perfect outfit. So I've always been into it. In the, gosh, 2008, 2009, when I was actually going to culinary school and living in the city, I started a blog just because I had just moved from Chicago. So I moved away from all my friends. And you guys, I have no concept of this time, but it was like before Instagram and all this other stuff where you could easily kind of have this visual diary. So I had this blog where I would kind of write a little bit about my day and then like take a picture of my outfit, whatever. And it ended up kind of turning into a little bit of an early low key fashion blog, which there was kind of like a bubble of at the time. So I started doing some events and stuff like that. And that was, I guess, the first time I don't know, yeah, got a little bit of a taste for like, oh, maybe I have a little bit of an eye for this. And like, there can be fun things that can come from sharing it a little bit, even if it's just, people saying nice things on your blog or like a company sending you free clothes. It's like, oh, well, maybe this is something I'll stick with a little bit.
That's cool. Do you have like a few like staple places you like shop at, or is it just kind of like random?
Yeah, I do. I think as I've gotten older with a little bit more, I mean, not that much disposable income, but I have some kind of more expensive little indie brands that I like Ace and Jig, or there's a shop called Becklina that they sell really unique, interesting, colorful clothes. And I definitely kind of gravitate towards colorful things. But just as much, if not more, I really do like thrifting or like vintage shopping. I think there's something so much more satisfying about finding a piece that no one else will have. And I think wearing all new stuff can just be kind of boring because anyone can dress like that. There's not really anything unique about it. So I really try to balance either stuff that I've held on to for 20 years or stuff that I found at a thrift store, stuff that I find secondhand on the Real Real or Poshmark, and then mixing in the new stuff.
So, like aside from the Real Real or Poshmark, do you recommend any other online thrifting stores?
I haven't tried like ThredUp or Mercari. I know there are other ones, and honestly, I feel like most of the time, to me, if I'm really thrifting, like if it's not trying to look for something specific from a designer that I like, that's when I'll go to Poshmark or Ace and Jig. For actual thrifting, I think just going to a Goodwill or an equivalent is the best. The online thrifting I always look at and just think like this is overpriced for what it is. And that might just be me being like old and out of touch, but I'm used to like even we were just in Florida on vacation and I went to like a million thrift stores in one day and I was so bummed out because everything is just old fast or new fast fashion that didn't sell at Target, and overpriced. And to me, that's just not what a thrift store should be. So I think the true like going in person, thrifting online is so hard too. I mean, part of the whole thing about thrifting is you have to sort through so much crap before you find something good. And I think you really have to be able to try stuff on. So unfortunately, I just don't think that the online ones are great to me.
My turn? Okay. uh, so we start with baking or culinary pastries. We open the we buy the
Maker.
COVID shuts that down. but we still have now a restaurant where are we seating people or it's pickup order?
We are, as of a couple months ago, we were takeout only for, well, I would say all of COVID, but like, I don't know, when is that ever over? But for the pandemic, we were takeout only, and we just a few months ago opened back up inside. Yeah, so we're now it's a small place. We took it over the building 20, maybe it was 2018. It must have been the fall of 2018. And ran it for, yeah, about a year and a half before the pandemic. And at that point, it had kind of been like a side project, second thought. We live in this tiny town and there's nothing but pizza for takeout. And we had always really wanted there to be something else. So when this building opened up, I can see it out. I keep looking over because I can see it out of my window. So it's right there. It's this cute little kind of New York style, maybe, I don't know, 12 seats inside, 15 seats inside. Nice kitchen that had just been redone. And we just thought, like, well, we can do this and kind of still put most of our energy towards the bakery because it's much bigger and it's the thing that actually pays our living. And then just try the side business. And then, yeah, when the pandemic hit, it's also like on the side of a building, like it's the outermost in this kind of series of storefronts. So our landlord built us a little step up to a window so we could just hand take out a window. So it was super pandemic friendly. And yeah, so we're kind of putting most of our energy towards that, although both my husband and I do kind of a million things also. So we do that as our main job to get a paycheck every week. And then we both kind of do other stuff on the side.
So was it and maybe you answered this and it just slipped my mind, but was it the pandemic that really escalated the daily reel / fashion Instagram?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, I don't even know. I'm certainly my Instagram was private. And then I think I posted once or twice, more of like I used to have this fashion blog. Here's like kind of a throwback to that. I posted maybe a couple times in like 2018. Sorry, I'm getting over a million colds. I feel like I've been sick all year. So then when the pandemic hit, yeah, I think it was kind of after, I mean, I'm sure like so many people, it's like being stuck in your house for weeks on end. And I kind of got in a rut of wearing like the same sweatpants and sweatshirts every day and just kind of feeling like gross because I'm sure it's not true for everyone, but for me, like getting actually dressed, thinking about what I'm going to wear, I feel like it's such a personal expression of creativity and like showing the world who I am. And it feels good to do it. But I had gotten in this period of not doing it. And so I decided to kind of start doing it again. And then, I kind of realized too, as I started doing it more frequently, it's actually a really helpful tool. Also, if you're trying to figure out, like, I had just had my second kid. My style had kind of changed some. And I think I've only recently kind of learned to not buy stuff that is not for me. Like I will see something on someone else and think like, oh, that's so cute on her. I love that. And then I'll get it and be like, this isn't me at all. And it's helpful to have this visual diary of like, here's what you actually wear every day to see like, this is what works for me. This is what I gravitate towards. So if I see someone in a beautiful white flowy dress, that can look great on them. I'm never going to wear that, even if I think it's beautiful. So it was kind of became this once the cycle got going, I kind of got into it for that reason and kept doing it. And then eventually made my profile public basically so I could sell used clothes.
You said but my husband and I do many other things. Is there a competition, not between you and your husband, but is there a competition that you find now with probably the unexpected success of the Instagram following and then maybe a necessity to continue doing that, but the restaurant right out your window and whatnot, like I imagine that could be both you don't want to complain about it, but you have a legitimate complaint as to, dang it, like where do I want to spend my time?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say there's a competition between those two things. We're really lucky and we've kind of made this life for ourselves where basically our dinner restaurant is open 4 nights a week for 4 hours a night. So and we obviously work more than that. I was at the bakery this morning for most of the day making a cake for someone. I'll be there tomorrow. We've got to go to the restaurant supply store, but we're able to make our own hours, especially during the day a lot. And since now my kids are old enough to most days be in school, it means that I have a lot of flexibility during my day. Now, I did start working for an interior designer part-time, gosh, like last August. And that has been the thing that was most in competition because it's a desk job. It was like go to the office and sit down and work on the computer, which kind of brought me back to the thing that I hated about our school. And so that's something that I've recently cut way back on because, yeah, I mean, as Instagram has grown, I don't want to put too much stock in it because I think it's definitely not something that's going to last forever. It's kind of been like a crazy, wonderful experience, but not something that I ever expected or expect to continue for too long. So while I can do that and make some extra money, I'm going to do it, but I'm not going to rearrange my life to prioritize it, I guess. I'm pretty quick at doing things. I guess would be maybe going way back to the first question that was asked, how do I get so much done? I'm very fast at doing things. I think, again, in part because I don't do anything perfectly and I don't worry too much about that. Yeah, so with the Instagram stuff, because I only occasionally do work with places that I really like anyway, it's really quick and easy to do.
Do you have a favorite color to wear?
Oh, probably maybe red. I think my favorite color in life is green, but I really love red, like pops of red. So maybe that's a sweet question. I think.
Now, are you finding? I need to shut up. Oh, okay, I have one more. Robbie. Because I've made a promise to these young adults here. My first promise was I'll buy her Valentine's box of cookies.
Oh.
But you were very busy, and so you put that off.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
You said maybe Mother's Day, and I'm all for that Mother's Day idea. But even if you don't do that, could I before this year ends for them, I would like to place an order with you to give them some cookies.
I would love to make like a special box for you guys. We should talk, Robbie, offline about like, I don't know, maybe some special decorated cookies or something. Definitely.
Okay. And I guess my question to that was, are you happy with the baking that you're able to do in the 12-seat New York style restaurant right over there?
Well, so actually, it's kind of been a cheat because we bought the bakery building in August of 2019. So really great timing. So we still own it. So I have this huge, beautiful bakery that's empty that I use the kitchen to do all of my baking. So actually, we'll see what happens, but we are possibly about to sell the bakery. And that will be the test to see how much I can actually bake in a teeny tiny New York style restaurant. I think it will probably become much more pastry chef and less baker, which I think I'm okay with. You know, I got to be a baker for, gosh, I mean, 15 years at this point, and so it'll definitely change the job. But I really like making plated desserts, and I love a restriction because I love a challenge and it just makes me more creative. I think when there are walls that I have to figure out work around for, I think having such an open-ended, like my husband and I were just talking about it the other day at the restaurant. I'm still baking bags of cookies, like chocolate chip cookies and butterscotch cookies to sell at the restaurant. And kind of out of nowhere the other day, he was like, why are we still doing these? Like, this doesn't make sense. We're like a dinner restaurant. Why are we selling bags of cookies? And I was like, yeah, I guess just because I've been making cookies like every, couple days for 13 years and it just seems like we still have the space to do it, so I guess I'll keep doing it. So I think having some parameters on, like, I only have this not nice convection oven at the bakery or at the bistro to use. I only have this much space. I only have this much storage. I'm actually kind of excited because I think it'll make me, more creative and come up with some good desserts.
You mentioned your husband earlier. Is his style anywhere like near yours?
No. He is a passionate fisherman and he dresses like a fisherman. And I'll leave it at that. He's a skateboarder. So he's kind of a cross between like a skateboarder and a fisherman in his style. And it's not what I would choose for him, but it suits him. And he really he'll like a pair of pants and buy it in like the same color, like 4 different pairs. Like he's all about being practical and he does not care.
What just tell me to shut up. What's the last thing you were working on? Because I see green on your arm.
Oh shoot. Oh yep. It's food coloring. I made a cake for a client today that wanted the top of the cake covered in flowers. So I had to pipe a bunch of different flowers and leaves. So I have some green food coloring, but I also have like white. What was I even painting that was white? Gosh. Oh, when I did this house tour yesterday, this photographer came and I was up until 2 o'clock in the morning before, like touching up trim and, stuff that will definitely not show up in photos and was really stupid. But I kind of got in this panic about having the house be like clean and perfect. So, yeah, so I actually have all kinds of colors on me. If you look closely, there's a little blue on there. I'm a mess. But I figure people know that I'm, a painter and all kinds of stuff, so they just let it go.
Right. But then, so you wake up, you put on the go to school clothes. You come home, you put on the Instagram clothes. You may leave the Instagram clothes on during the day, but it's obvious that you get into the work. So what is the mortality rate of some of your favorite
clothes? Honestly, very low because I always wear an apron. I think that's really my best piece of advice. I have so many aprons and I wear one actually most of the time that I'm at home also after I do my reels if I'm like cleaning the house or doing laundry or sometimes even playing with my children. I just put an apron on because better safe than sorry. And a lot of times they have a little pocket in front. It's a very comfortable item of clothing. I highly recommend aprons. Put your phone right in there, anything you need, super handy.
Audrey, on this initial session, which might be she's got to go meet with a cake client and then pick up.
Yeah.
She had a hard 10 more minutes before she could work with it, but we're not gonna, I'm gonna let you relax before you have to run out. We have a minute left and I just want to, thank you. That's a pet line. People that say, I want to thank instead of just thanking. Like you don't, yeah.
Well, if you want to thank me, you can just do it. That's great.
Yeah, but I'll just do it. I want to thank you, Audrey. Just thank you for taking the time with us. And yes, you and I will chat after, and we will get ourselves some. You said ice cream based. Does that mean that it's frozen?
No, so it's a custard.
Okay.
It's basically pastry cream, right? Or pudding, essentially.
Pudding. Okay. All right.
Yeah, basically.
Our best to your family and to the next fishing trip. And
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thanks for the thoughtful questions. Have a good rest of your day.
Likewise. All right.
Take care. We'll talk soon. Bye.
Okay.